There is something deeply unsettling about the spectacle we are witnessing across the country in the name of launches. Picture this: the president, the deputy president, cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, senior government officials, an entire security apparatus, advance teams, motorcades, fuel, hotels, allowances, logistics, all crisscrossing the country. To do what exactly? To disperse 22,500 shillings to individual Kenyans. Money, by the way, that is sent quite literally at the press of a button via mobile money transfer. So one must ask, are they all traveling thousands of kilometers simply to press send? Would that money not reach beneficiaries if the president was not physically present on a raised platform, microphone in hand, flanked by political allies? I mean, would the fans bounce back if there was no motorcade? If there were no speeches? No cheering crowds? Because let us be honest, this money does not belong to any political party. It is not personal largesse. It is a World Bank funded project extended to the government of Kenya, not to individuals, not to coalitions, and certainly not to campaign teams. Yet the optics tell a different story. A stage, thousands gathered on the ground, leaders on one side, citizens on the other. Political speeches woven into what is meant to be a development intervention. And then there is the so-called business mentorship set to accompany this disbursement. One is tempted to ask, who exactly is conducting this mentorship? Is it the president, the deputy president, cabinet secretaries? And is this really how meaningful business support is delivered? In a rally-style format, under the sun, to thousands all at once. You see, mentorship is deliberate, it is structured, it is sustained, it is not shouted from a podium. What makes this even more troubling is the sheer wastage involved. I mean, the cost of moving this entire machinery across the country must run into millions, perhaps tens of millions. Money spent on transport, security, accommodation, allowances, and logistics, all to deliver amounts that could be disbursed quietly, efficiently, and with dignity. But you see, this is not an isolated case. This very week, we witnessed the launch of a government policy. A policy, not a project, not a building, not an emergency intervention. A policy that has been 2 years in the making. A large venue is hired, decor installed, seats arranged, food and drink, no doubt, provided, all to launch something whose most important element is not spectacle, but implementation. You see, a policy is gazetted. Then the policy lives or dies by its implementation matrix. A policy could be explained through a press conference, a detailed public brief, parliamentary engagement, and social media dissemination. So again, the question arises, at what cost? Do the costs of these launches now rival or even outweigh the substance of the projects and policies themselves? But you see, it doesn't end there. We've seen electoral bodies holding prayer meetings in hotels. Important engagements, yes, but must they always be in expensive venues? Could they not be held in offices or places of worship themselves? When did public service become so addicted to pageantry? When cabinet needed to pray, they went to the All Saints Cathedral. Now that looked promising for the new year. It now turns out it was probably an isolated New Year's resolution that ended in January. Because what we are seeing is a troubling conflation of governance, campaigning, and performance. Government work is being done like a roadshow. Public funds are being wrapped in political messaging, and development programs are being personalized, politicized, and marketed as favors. Yet none of this money is personal. None of it is political property. all of it is public. So tonight my take is this. If a program cannot stand without a motorcade, then it is not about service. If a policy needs fanfare to be credible, then we have misunderstood governance. And if leadership now requires constant applause, then accountability has quietly exited the room. Kenyans deserve delivery, not drama, substance, not spectacle, and governance that respects their intelligence, not one that mistakes rallies for impact. Because surely there must be a cheaper way to press send. That's my take tonight.
On Monday this week, players in the public transport sector, popularly known as the matatu industry, downed their tools on most roads within the city. The decision to paralyze transport in Nairobi was, according to them, a message to law enforcers who they claim continue to abet the banning of their vehicles by boda operators. While this action could pass as one of the constitutionally protected rights and freedoms, tonight, I want to remind the matatu sector of one painful truth. The boda operators learned from the best. They learned from you. And unfortunately, you have met your match. For years, the matatu sector has been characterized by madness, reckless driving, speeding, blaring loud music, overloading, and horrific incessant accidents. Anarchy, it can be said, runs in the bloodline of the sector. I therefore watched with amusement a press conference by the sector's leadership decrying violation of their rights and demanding protection from the boda sector. May I remind you tonight, you once again that the rights, the very rights that you are wailing about are the same rights every Kenyan deserves. The property you seek to protect is the same property private motorists struggle daily to safeguard from your reckless driving. The loss of income you are concerned about is the same loss passengers incur when you arbitrarily hike fares and harass them during their daily commute. Because of your bad manners, the strict adherence to traffic rules you now demand of boda operators is the very same discipline Kenyans have long demanded of you. You are no better than them when you jump traffic lights at will, overlap for fun, and load passengers like sardines. You do not occupy the moral high ground to point fingers at a sector that learnt at your feet and continues to grow under your pupillage. While we hear you and might want to sympathize, we must also ask you a very difficult question. Are you any better? You cannot live by the sword and expect to die in comfort, surrounded by angelic voices, singing Hosanna and Kumbaya to you. Boda operators are not hostile to you. They are simply serving your own cake. You cannot demand better behavior from them when decency for you remains a foreign concept. Kenyans are watching, and we have been watching ever since you discarded the Michuki rulebook that once brought order to the sector. Go back to it, restore sanity, discard the madness, and then you can count on our support. Anything else is akin to Chile's dictator Agustino Pinochet calling for the prosecution of Cambodia's rogue Pol Pot. They are all cut from the same cloth. And that is my bone tonight.
There was something that we used to call mango. I don't know. No. It was, kama niko na mango na wewe, if we have beef, we don't settle it here. We wait for after school. We go out into the field, and then we do our thing. We sort out our issues. Tomorrow, we are back in school like nothing happened. Sam.
I think the date is 10th of August, 2027.
Well, can we just do it before, maybe?
You know, the fascinating thing is that they're complaining about the challenges that we witnessed today. And indeed, at some point, Fred Matiang'i was in charge of education. Who was the deputy president? He's perhaps sitting or standing behind Kithure Kindiki, the deputy president. And I find this very unproductive because at the end of the day, it doesn't solve anything. So yes, there are sound bites. They are aired on Newsgang and other platforms. But the real problem is about education. Are there challenges in the transition of CBE?
Yes.
Indeed, there is. Are there challenges that teachers are experiencing having to educate the learners? Yes. Are parents hurting in terms of financing the education of their learners? The answer is yes. So instead of this bickering and fighting over who did what and who should have and didn't, because even Professor Kithure Kindiki, in that season, he was the deputy speaker of the Senate up to a certain point. Before then, he was the leader of majority at the Senate.
Before Mene Tekel.
Indeed. So really, if this was a sin, each of them has sinned. And I don't know who would be the first to throw a stone. But all the same, I think we're witnessing a very interesting scenario. If you look at Fred Matiang'i when he was speaking in a church in Murang'a County. I think the place is Gitugi. And this was one moment that we saw the united opposition coming together to speak in one voice. I look at last week as a moment that we've seen. Remember that in January, March of January, everyone was asking, where is the united opposition? Why? Because the president was very busy going across the country with the Nyota program, launching those events. Of course, there are many questions being raised about that, but he was visible. The united opposition, you'd see them at separate meetings, each at their own. But then after the Witima church attack this Sunday before, then you see them this other week on Sunday. They were in that church in Gitugi, and also they had also gone to Nyeri. But in the same week, they held meetings with the Inspector General, Douglas Kanja, to talk about security situation and also what they had witnessed in Witima, in Othaya, and also held a meeting with the IEBC where they complained about the issues that we were talking about in the earlier part. So I don't know whether this is the new strategy that the united opposition is speaking, that this is how they're going to address their affairs. Still, there's the question that you hear the president continuously saying, you are genderless, you are leaderless. I think they are now coming together. I don't know to what end, but it looks like it was a different week for the united opposition, Yvonne.
Sasa tumechoka na Ruto. Yaani tumechoka. Motherfucker. Kama ni Ruto tutaki president wake bana. Hakuna kazi. Yaani tunakula msoto. Tunakula msoto. Sasa kwa nini tuwe na rais kama wewe? Mimi nimesema kama hizi salamu zikufikie bwana rais, tumechoka na wewe.
Nice like